Hello and welcome to our NetBees webinar on what's new in version 11, which is our newest release. I think we're ready to get started here. If anyone has any questions, please feel free to ask them throughout the webinar using our chat or the Q&A button, or you can hold your questions until the end during the Q&A, which we will answer all of the questions from the webinar and that we receive in the Q&A. So let's get started. Okay, today's hosts, I am one of them. I'm our marketing department, part of the marketing department, and I will be co-hosting with Stefano, and I will let him introduce himself.
Yeah, thank you, Jess, and hi, everyone. I'm Stefano Gridelli, the co-founder of NetBees and representing the product team in this webinar.
So we're going to have a slightly more informal webinar than we normally do to go through these product updates and just kind of have a back and forth about what we've been working on in NetBees. So
awesome.
Ready for the
Let's give
webinar.
it a shot. Yep.
Okay, so just a little bit about NetBees to reiterate what we're doing. NetBees is a platform that enables the work from anywhere enterprise. We accomplished this by enabling IT operations and engineering teams to quickly troubleshoot issues with your enterprise network and remote workforce. NetBees supports hardware sensors, which everyone's familiar with, as well as virtual machines and Docker for on-prem environments, and Windows and Mac clients for the home users, which has been obviously an uptick here in the past couple of years with COVID. I think we're ready for
awesome. Should we kick it to the agenda?
Yep.
Okay, yeah, I can take this. So today we'll talk about version 11, and we'll cover three key updates, improvement, including with this release, which was posted last October. This will be the last release of the year. So let's see what version 11 is about and why we're covering these three topics. The first one is the new dashboard onboarding. So this is mostly a workflow that will be presented to new dashboard users as an onboarding, and we'll tell you more why this is important also for existing customers. Second is the refresh login design. Of course, there is much more to it, and we'll also go over that. And lastly, the real-time and historical data visualization, which is one of the most used features in NetBees. We give an update and explain a bit more what we included with this update.
Awesome. Would we be able to get a demo of the new onboarding experience?
Yeah, definitely. I spun a dashboard, and I can show you what that's how does it look like. Couple of things I want to say before I show you a demo is that before version 11, the onboarding was very simple. It would ask you to upload the license and create the first user, and then the user would be presented the dashboard, and then they would have to create, the targets, add the agents, and so on, or invite other user. Well, now with this new onboarding, all these important tasks are included as in the setup and first configuration workflow, and we added, I think, already three very important steps that you have to take to activate your dashboard. One is, of course, create the administrator username, which is the first user. But then we added a way to create monitoring targets against SaaS application. So that is great because the user doesn't have to guess the URL and what test to use to monitor, say, Zoom, Office, or very other SaaS applications. We also included predefined custom targets such as VPN tests, gateway tests for remote users, and also how to monitor your own website or internal application. And then we also give you the ability to invite other dashboard users as part of the onboarding and send the endpoint to the end users. So yeah, let me show you a bit in a quick demo how this looks like. So I have here spun a test server to show you this onboarding new experience. If you're an existing customer, you cannot access this, but I'll tell you something what is coming your way as an existing user with a already configured dashboard. So as soon as you're sent an invitation to configure your new NetBeans dashboard, you'll be presented this screen that quickly recaps what the onboarding entails, what are the steps you're going through. So let's get started. First of all, you have to add your email, set a password, and make sure that it matches the complexity criteria. Then, of course, we ask first name and last name. This is nothing new, really. What we added here is a job title, so you can, you know, identify, specify as your profile with your role within the company and the primary use cases. So are you, for example, the administrator, or you're maybe a technical user, a network engineer that uses the application to troubleshoot issues, or maybe a business user like a network manager or executive that needs to mostly maybe review the high-level reports or receive email reports, for instance. So for myself, I'll set myself as an administrator and click next. So this is the SaaS application templates that we're very excited about, and it's something that we're gonna import also on existing dashboard in 11.1. So from here we have an initial definition of some SaaS targets that you can basically configure and monitor. Of course, this will update along the releases as we have more requests to monitor more SaaS applications. So I'm selecting like 3 random or 4, right, different apps, Google Docs, Teams, HubSpot, for example. Jess, uses HubSpot, so we want to make sure that she has a good experience, and then Zoom, as we are based on a Zoom video conference. As a next step, this is the custom target. So if you want to monitor your own company website, for example, we have netbeans.net, add a label. You can also enable ping test from this configuration. If you're familiar with NetBeans, this is much more simplified than before, where you have to select the test, add the URLs, and so on. You can also configure a VPN test. The only information you have to give is an IP address that is reachable once the VPN tunnel is established. And I can also monitor gateway for work from home users. Generally, home gateways are always problematic. They're kind of consumer grade and not as good as the enterprise network hardware. So they might require reboot. So we want to also keep an eye onto that performance. Next, I can invite dashboard user. I'm going to skip this, but you have the ability to, add other coworkers from your team and specify what role. If it's an admin, has full privileges on all the settings of the NetBeans. Read-write can only, create targets, and read-only maybe for a service desk team.
How many admins do you typically have for one team?
Yeah, generally about 2 or 3. And then we see, especially in large organizations that have a service desk, a lot of read-only or maybe read-write accounts.
Okay.
Next step, this is another step we're really excited about, is that you can send endpoint to the end user. So by here specifying a first name, last name, and email, then the user will receive an email with a link from which they can download their own Windows or Mac client. So as you notice, the onboarding is all giving you all these key activities in one step and very easy to do. So I'm going to skip also this, but in the next step, before you create all these resources, you have the ability to review all this information you inserted. You can change it if you made any mistake. And then once you click submit, you're ready to access your dashboard, and you'll have already the targets created, the user invited, and the endpoints sent via email to your end users.
Awesome. Are you able to remove users too?
From this configuration, yes. Or once the dashboard is live, you can remove users, either endpoint that you don't want to connect to your dashboard, you can blacklist them, or you can delete dashboard users.
Okay, awesome.
Okay, good.
Great. Thanks for the demo.
Yeah, absolutely. Should we go to the next feature?
Yes.
All right. Okay. So the second improvement is a new redesigned login window. So, this sounds something very trivial. It's just a new UI, new user interface on the login, not a big deal. But I think there is more to it that is very important for our future roadmap, because we also rework the backend. And when doing that, we thought about the many requests that we have to add more single sign-on way to authenticate user to the dashboard. So the long story short, this new login window comes with a new backend that allows to expand our single sign-on providers. So at the moment, for enterprise authentication, we support Azure Active Directory and Simple LDAP, but then in the future, you'll see in our roadmap, we're adding more different other providers. Yeah.
Awesome. So I really like that. I don't know, like I know whenever I use HubSpot and I sign on, everything's like centralized there and I don't have to keep re-adding my information. I'm assuming that this is similar.
Yeah, precisely. So you don't have like a username and password for each app. You can use, right, always the same provider. So yeah, definitely will be the same experience, and very important for large enterprises to have a centralized way to manage account versus having a local database on the NetBeans server for the users. Yeah,
Definitely less Post-its with all of my passwords on them.
exactly.
Kidding. I don't do that.
Great security practice.
Yeah.
Yes.
I know, right? No, it's just the same password for everything, so I don't have that problem. But someone guesses my random made up word, then I'm kind of screwed. Okay, so on to
All right.
/ last feature for this update.
Yes, so the last feature is the real-time and historical view. So this is one of the most used features that we have in the dashboard, because of course NetBeans is all about collecting telemetry data, performance data from remote users right into the dashboard to understand real-time performance, but also it's also important to compare the real-time data with the historical and trend analysis performance data. So in before version 11, to access real-time and historical data, you were presented with two different widgets, and sometimes it would break the workflow, the troubleshooting process. With this new widget, everything historical data in real time is accessible within the same widget. So as you can see here, you can switch the button from real time to historical, and can select also some predefined intervals. And then you can also drill down better within specific chunks, which was a feature was available in the historical view in the legacy UI. And not only, but it also simplifies the way to overlap other metrics on top of the performance data. So
Awesome.
should we show a demo?
Yes, if you could show a demo, that would be great. And I loved our brief entrance from Panos there.
Yes, when
he was just coming to visit because I guess he wanted to present the real-time and historical data himself.
It was so excited.
Yeah.
All right.
Live demo would be great.
Yes, perfect. So let me show you here, give you some context. So I'm going to our NetBeans dashboard. This is the remote worker section. Of course, it's the same for network agent, which are the on-prem sensors or the work from home endpoints. So this is my endpoint right now. Running the webinar from home today. And I want to just check my performance to Google, see how things were going. Hopefully you didn't hear choppy voice or metallic voice during the webinar. And it appears that we had a pretty smooth experience so far with the webinar, knock, knock. So this is the new, not too different from the legacy real time, but this is the difference that now I can click on the historical, and I can also select a time period, right? Let's go do 1 week. It's quite some data points to collect now, but I can also jump in and out between real time and historical data, and then I can also focus on a very specific time period of this historical window selected. So this is very good to do troubleshooting and comparison live on the dashboard. And another thing also we improved is the overlap of metrics, such as the MOS, for instance. Now, this is a big window, of course, that I've selected, but it's very like, it's a different improved workflow. It's something that will be available to all version 11. Another thing that I like of this new widget is that you can also maximize it and put it like full screen to have more real estate if you really want to drill into a specific issue with the customer. And then you have the typical function around the test. You can pause and resume the test.
Cool. That's cool that you can see real time and historical at the same time.
Yeah, definitely a great improvement.
Yeah. Awesome. I think that concludes our updates. Is that correct?
Yeah, that was the last one.
Awesome. Well, we did a lot in 2022, and those are huge updates, especially the onboarding experience. I think will make it a lot easier for everyone to onboard and, you know, add everything that they need into the dashboard instead of having it done for them. And what can we expect in 2023?
Yeah, so 2023, as I was saying, that was our last release for 2022, and we're already working on 11.1, which incorporates some of the improvements of 11. 11.1 is scheduled around mid the Q1, let's say end of January, mid-February at the moment. So what we're gonna add is the SAS and predefined targets that we include in the onboarding. Those will be also available now to existing dashboard, meaning that when you create a new target, you can select SAS and predefined targets. This is not available right now because the scope was initially only for the onboarding. Second, a very important feature coming up that we're really looking forward is the weekly reports via email. It's basically a weekly digest of your network agents, targets, and remote workers' performance for the last week. And we give you some extra information if you are an administrator. That's why those fields are important. So this will be very valuable, not only for the average user, but also for network manager that maybe want to see how the network was doing the past week, and so the performance of remote users. A minor improvement for the single sign-on Azure Active Directory. We're going to add RBAC, which is a role-based access, meaning that when you have an Azure Active Directory authentication, you can specify in Azure assign roles within the NetBeans dashboard within the Azure configuration. And lastly, minor, we already support Windows servers, but they will be showing up on the dashboard as network agents, because generally a Windows server is not really an endpoint for work from home users, but is rather used in some on-prem and virtual environment to monitor the on-prem or cloud infrastructure. So we'll be in the appropriate kind of licensing, accounting, and dashboard location. After that, we're going to work on version 12. We are updating the targets. As you know, that's something that we started. We have two versions of the reports right now, the legacy and the new version. On the new version, we only have the network summary and the agent reports. What we're missing to port into the new version is the target and the scheduled test reports, along with the email scheduling. So that will be completed in version 12. And along with those, we're also going to add a SAML SSO authentication. Lastly, for the second half of 2023, of course, tentative, but we are working on a widget-driven dashboard that basically, for example, now the bus stop is a fairly static content. You cannot change what you're going to display. Well, now with the widget-driven dashboard, you have the ability to enable or disable certain specific widgets that better reflect your use case. That will also trickle into CAN reports. So you will see those same widgets. You can receive it in a report, for instance. It could be a report via email, exported via PDF, or perhaps also published as a public dashboard. Lastly, the time series database is mostly backend, but the benefit is that you're going to see even more better responsive from the dashboard for very large installation with thousands of remote workers of hundreds of network agents. So that's a backend, but again, it's going to benefit especially large customer. And lastly, we're going to continue working on integrations. We have service now in the pipeline. That's very important because many of our customers use this platform for ticketing, opening and closing incidents. And Okta as a single sign-on, we're going to add also that method. And now that we did that new login window, all this new integration will come more easily for development. And with that, of course, this is it might be subject to changes. For sure, 11.1 is kind of a defined scope. 12 might have, kind of 50-50, but for the most, this is our tentative roadmap for 2023. And then we might deprioritize some tasks based also on our customer feedback and what we see changing in the requirements of our prospect and customers.
Wow, we have a big year coming up. Good thing I won't be on maternity leave this time.
Yeah, indeed. Get ready. It's going to be.
This is mainly, it looks pretty dev heavy, but be some exciting webinars coming up at least.
Nevertheless, yeah, indeed.
All right. Do we have any questions? Can we move into the Q&A?
Definitely. Let's see,
like
Q&A.
Some questions. Okay, I can read them here.
Okay.
So can it run on-prem?
Yes, NetBees can run both on-prem or in the cloud as a standalone server instance per customer. So yours to choose. We can host it, you can host it, or host it on-prem.
Awesome. What are the system requirements to be able to run a trial on-prem?
Minimal requirements are 2 CPUs and 6 GB of RAM, give or take. We would provide you with the virtual machine to run it on-prem, or we also have one command line installer. So you can also install it, on an existing, generally Ubuntu we support, or on an AMI.
What's the granularity of the data reported by NetBees?
Yes, so as you know, we report raw granular data because it's more precise, it's not sampled. Then, of course, we give you averages if you need to use those, of course, for baseline analysis. But the smallest interval and granularity is 1 second. So very, very fine grain. Yeah.
Awesome. How much historical data can NetBees retain?
So originally we had 12 years that nobody was using 12 years, but at the moment is up to 2 years. But the long story short is that we really can retain a very large amount of historical data, and you can decide. And of course, if you want to go beyond 2 years, just let us know. But yeah.
If someone's making it their job to sift through 12-year-old data,
I don't want to be in their role.
Yeah, exactly. That sounds awful, and you need to get a new job. Okay, where was I here? Can I access the historical data through an API?
Yes, we have API. We actually did a webinar some time ago, also presented on Tech Field Day. So if you want to take a sneak peek to our API, go on our online documentation available from our website, or api.netbees.net. So we do.
I saw an export button in the historical data. What does that do?
Yeah, good question. I didn't talk about that. We provide, data dumps. I'm sorry?
I said good eye.
Yeah, definitely. Data dumps, so you can export the data as a CSV file with right, and then save it and analyze it however you prefer. Yeah.
Okay, I think that's all of the questions. Do we have one more slide?
My
favorite slide?
Yes, we do have this slide.
Don't be a stranger. Stefano added this, but I'm glad I got to say it. You can visit us or chat with us on our website. We have intercom, meaning that you can ask any questions that you have down with the little chat function. And we're very quick to respond. We have a phone number. Maybe don't use that. Just kidding. You can if you have to.
Some people like to call. You'll be surprised.
I actually get I feel like 3 calls a day, and I don't know what anyone's soliciting me about. But if you have questions related to this webinar, don't expect me to answer the phone.
Yes, don't call Jessica extension. We have the sales extension is the number 1. So yeah.
There you go. Always do 1.
Yes, we have a menu so they can figure it out.
Yeah. Or you can visit our website at netbees.net. And like I said, the chat function or request a demo, and we can do this all again for you live in a demo. And otherwise, I think that that is our webinar. Thank you for joining, and we hope that you learned a bunch about version 11 and are excited for 12 and 13.
Thank you, everyone.
All right, thank you.
Bye.
Bye.